Good morning, everyone. Good morning, John Bosco. Good morning, Jill. Africans on the continent, or many of us that are from vulnerable nations affected by the climate change, begin to move beyond the rhetorics, begin to move beyond the talking points. And that's what brought the concept of galvanizing delegates, young delegates attending COP26. But before COP26, there is a pre-meeting that will start next month. It's called the pre-COP. It's singularly for young people. It started in 2019 when the current UN Secretary General deemed it fit to involve young people, a very important section, into the climate change movement and into the global politics of climate change.
What is our role as towards this Paris Agreement? How are we making commitments to make sure that our government is carrying everyone along? So I was mentioning that it is very important that the government carry along the people before they make a commitment towards them. And it's very, very important that if we do this, we'll be able to understand the need of the people, because they are the people that actually drive implementation at the civil society, the local people. And these are the people that can push for change and for support, and that can also put the Paris Agreement at the forefront of what we want to see as a change in the global and the local space. Another thing again is when you are making commitments for a certain country, especially a country like Nigeria, it is also very important that we understand that the large number of people, our population, that you are making commitment towards them, you need to have your facts, your figure, your data, to know how you can be able to set your targets so that people will understand that you are making these targets, people that are actually suffering from these environmental impacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Olumide, for that wonderful presentation from you. You see, when you don't involve the people you are, working with, it becomes a bigger problem because they do not know how to follow up with you. Please, let's go over to Gewun. Gewun, you have been a key role player in this journey of the climate reality. What's your view on what's going on so far?
I have been actually living the climate refugee experience as a survivor of climate change Hurricane Dorian, the strongest Atlantic hurricane in history of that region. We had a hurricane that lasted 3 days over my island. 70% of the island was underwater in 25 foot of saltwater storm surge. People were killed, houses were destroyed, and we still don't have an accurate count of the fatalities from that storm. And 2 years later, we still have no potable fresh water on my island. We still have to carry water to the home each day for cooking and bathing. So I'm living the dream, but it's a reality for us. The Bahamas is going to be one of the first of the top 10 countries that will disappear under the water when the sea level rises to the heights that are forecast. And we're just a tiny island nation. We're a small island developing state. So where are 300,000 people from our nation supposed to go after we get the results of climate change? We have to start drawing down climate change now. We should have done it in the 70s, but we're now at a point where it's make it or break it. We have to stop fooling around. We have to actually make the decisions and implement them at a government level, at a corporation level, and at an individual level. But Dr. Daniel's back, so I'll be quiet and let Dr. Daniel take over.
Thank you so much, Jill, for stepping in for me and giving us a Caribbean perspective. I was also saying and supporting what you're saying, that it's time we step up and step up to act. It's not just to step up and fill in the gap, it's step up and really be on ground to act. And Olumide has actually given us the gap challenges. And as I was trying to say before, we had some technical challenge. So there's a theory called the fix that fails. The theory is a system thinking theory. It's a theory that explains that if a problem before now has been looking for solution, and you look for a quick fix, like just let's sign the agreement and not know the forward end, what is going to happen afterwards. That what happens is that whatever short solutions you put in it will only make the problem more worse, or we only ensure that many people are not carried along. And Olumide had conceptualized the main challenge we have in the continent of Africa. There's a knowledge gap, and secondly, there's a non-inclusive dissociation of the people that are vulnerably affected about climate change. On that note, I wanted to ask Gloria. Gloria, from your own perspective, as a leading climate environmentalist, as someone working for an organization that focuses on climate change, I mean climate change reality, as a co-founder of an organization yourself, Bridge the Gap, what do you think will be the political solution to addressing some of the challenges that Olumide has mentioned, vis-a-vis the knowledge gap, vis-a-vis the collaborative, and then give us a concept of the challenges you face yourself? I know it's a kind of complex question, but I know you can do something about it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Daniel. And looking at the political solutions from within, this is really a little bit very complex, because if you're not close to what is happening in governance, if you're not in that space, it will be a little bit tough for you to give solutions. But then you can always, from the outside, there are key things that we can actually do to influence that political will, looking at the gaps that Olumide has actually mentioned. Now, the problem is some of our leaders do not even understand why we have to act now on climate. We have to take climate action. They really do not understand some of the things that are happening. Like, I'm very sure a lot of some countries are even signing into the Paris Agreement because others are doing, and they wouldn't want to be left behind. But under the real context, do they really understand? Are they ready? Is that a political will to make it work? And so we all understand, if you're into governance, you understand how governance work. From the inside, there's quite a lot of bottlenecks in terms of government, in terms of our politicians. But then it's our responsibility from the outside to be able to engage and push as much as we can. Now, looking at it first, before we can even engage with them, we need to understand, like I always say in almost virtually all my presentations, we need to understand governance process. What is in governance, what is expected. We need as individuals to build an accountability mechanism around almost everything that the government is doing, especially around climate change. Now, back in my country, a few months ago, there was a regional engagement on the review of the NDCs. And so it just came pop like that, and everybody had to attend. And of course, I was opportune to attend the one for my zone. But, and of course, it was captioned as CSO for CSO's engagement. But the truth is, just like Olumide has said, what has happened to the previous NDC? Has anybody looked at it? Have we even drew up a scorecard on it? Have we even looked at it? How much of that commitment have been achieved from the 2015 to date? And now there's a review. So now there's nobody that has actually followed taps with it to even say, okay, fine, let's do an assessment. Let's monitor this and let's bring it out and see so far what has happened. And so we're all heading in for another failure. If we haven't been able to achieve anything in the first NDC that was produced, then why then will we achieve any success in the second NDC? looking back at national level, there are a lot of things that are happening that even at state level, people are not informed, people are not aware. The impact of climate change is felt more at the local level, where the indigenous people are, where the rural people are. They are the farmers. They are the ones that have vast land. In the urban communities, some of this development has taken over quite a lot. And it is in the rural community that the deforestation is taking place, where trees are being cut and brought into the urban areas for trees and all those companies or that use coal or fire, that use firewood for production of one or two of their products. And so you see, we need to look at policy levels. We need to work with pressure groups. And so we need people that can stand out and talk, people that have done remarkably well in terms of governance globally and even locally. We need to look at, okay, say for example, somebody like Al Gore. I know he has played a huge role in terms of in some of the COPs, and of which he is a voice, and of which we need somebody like him. But then the question is, who influences the influencer? He is an influencer in that space, in the political space. Now we need an influencer to influence the influencer. So who are those influencers? Who are those? Those are where the pressure groups are. And this is where young people need to step on board. We need women to step on board. We need indigenous people to step on board. We need indigenous people. We need activists, we need advocates, we need rebels, we need the media, we need the civil society. We need everyone to begin to come on board. We need to influence them. We need to scream out loud. We need to put our voices together. We need to take action. That way we can actually touch the hearts of those influencers who will in turn influence our policy. Those are people that we look at them as gatekeepers. And so it is very important that we engage with them and also intensify our own action. In terms of challenges I've faced, it hasn't been easy for me down here, and especially around, I can say around in most countries in Africa, and I'm very sure it will be worldwide. Because now the bottleneck is, the issue is there inclusiveness in terms of climate governance? Because this is all about governance. When we're talking about policies, it's all about governance. Is there inclusiveness? Are the doors of the ministries open? Are the doors of local governments open? Are the doors of all agencies working around climate change open for us to all step in? Are there open dialogues? You understand? We see all sorts happening. I think they have, like, I permit me to say that there's a small group that probably, if you know someone that knows someone, or you could be brought in to be part of probably one or two dialogues that are happening. Yeah, like a click thing. But then it's not triggering down at state level where things are happening. The states are the ones that are connected to the local community where some of these things are happening. So these are challenges that we keep facing. And at times when even interface with some of government people, personnel, you find out that there's a huge knowledge gap too. Now, the knowledge gap is not even on one side, it's on both sides. The government too, there's a knowledge gap. We also, the citizens, there's also the knowledge gap.
That's true.
And so what do you want to tell that man in the village about climate change? What do you want to tell that person in the ministry or in the local government about climate change? All they know about is, let me just do what I'm supposed to do and earn my pay. And that person in the rural community feels that anything that is happening, it is God. You know, so if there's a decline in annual rainfall or there's heavy rains, nobody associates it to climate change. They all believe, oh, it's probably a God factor, or which, you know, we Africans are a whole God factor. And so when there's drought, you don't even want to understand that, the climate is actually changing. But I like meeting people like that, because I always want them to cast their minds back. And I give them like a 5 years or 6 years time to reflect back. I ask them, okay, fine. In 10 years back, what was happening? How were your, if they are agrarians, I ask them, how was your yield, your annual yield that time? What's happening now? The rainfall, stuff like that, the heat, and you keep asking, oh, I hope you're enjoying the heat. It's really very hot, and I hope you're enjoying it. And then you get them at a sober point that they begin to like understand with you. So it's very easy for you to, at that point, they are vulnerable. So it's very easy for you to actually speak with them, and they begin to understand that, yes, this climate change is really happening. So we need to influence the influencers. We need to up our game. and we need to engage with the government. We need to understand what are those reforms around climate change. What are those policies that we have on ground around climate change? How is the implementation? Is there a framework for implementation? What are the successes? Who is tracking those projects? What are the priority projects around what do they call it? Around climate change? What is even our budget saying? What is in the budget? What is in the figure? Now, it's something to have a budget, a state budget or a country budget, but then the cash backing. Are there releases after approvals or so? Where are those projects happening? Where are those? Do we know the locations? Can we actually monitor and track those projects? Can we as individuals give reports of those projects that are happening? But then how do we get to know that the government is actually engaging in one or two projects? We need to have, as much as possible, we need to open up space and go in. If one person finds himself there, that person can help in probably sharing of information. If you find yourself in a meeting with the government, we come out, we blow it up, and that is where the media is very important. That way, at state level, at local government, the people are aware that this is what is happening, and we begin to push. We begin to do the little things we can do. We begin to look at those influencers. We begin to influence those influencers that can influence policies for us and also political will. Thank you.
Wow, this is totally a wonderful summary of our reality now. Please, just to back up before I ask Oto, just to explain to you what Gloria has conceptualized, because they are deep and they are actually things on ground. One, she has said that there is need for us to have an open door policy, because open door policy brings accountability, because it makes people more inclusive, and then people can bring in more perspective so that we can collaborate more. It's not enough for you to set up a meeting and not tell people the agenda. And then when people come for the meeting, they are coming 1 or 2 days, not properly prepared. That has to change. Another thing she mentioned, very important, is on both ends of the spectrum, there's a gap of knowledge. It is important that even those that should be the drivers of the concept for change or the concept for a renewable, a better future, know very limited thing about how to go about it. Then on the other hand, because of the socio-economic challenges that have been going on for the general people, you understand, they blame everything on God. The flooding that has destroyed your stuff, you say it's God sent, right? Then the sunshine, it's God sent, right? Then the whatever, you blame everything on God. That's just totally impossible. And for her, she believes that until the time we start to review actions of the past, so that we can be able to know where we are heading to, and we can be able to prioritize better. You can't keep pumping money into something that is not working. They call that in system thinking limited growth. When you keep pumping money into a solution or a problem, what happens is at the end of the day, it can become a problem. At the end of the day, it can reverse. At the end of the day, when it reverses, it will become more worse than how it is. And climate change is a complex thing. So Gloria, you are spot on. I want to ask Otu. Otu, you've heard all what Gloria has said. That our challenge that we have is that collaboration that is expected to be there, that collaboration that is expected to be the strategic arm to drive our mantra for change on climate change, or to inspire people to start to take personal actions, are no longer there. In your own part, from your work as an environmentalist in Ghana, what are the strategic opportunities, or what are the strategic methods you use to engage your government? Because I know your organization also works with young people. How were you able to overcome this perennial hurdle that bedevils the continent of Africa with respect to being accountable? How were you able to go around this, share with us and share with viewers what the Ghanaian success story is from your own perspective, from your NGO perspective, so that we can all rub minds and then now know where we need to come. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniel, Dr. Daniel, for having me. And then I'm most grateful to you too. And I want to say a big hello to all our listeners and viewers from Facebook and all the spectrums of life. I would want to take over from where Gloria ended, and then share a few stats with us. In the environmental sector, if some of us are privy to information, from 1992, that was from Rio to 2002, Rio Plus to 2012, Rio Plus Plus. That was when the environmental issue became a global issue. People started getting awareness to a level because Kyoto Protocol started in 2008, 2005, but it hadn't been ratified after that time. And so we were getting a consciousness about the environment and the fact that we needed to protect the planet. And so human beings started working towards these things. So within that space of time, and I personally moved from academia to join the war for environment, or the war to save and protect us, and the war for sustainable development within that same era. And you realize that most of us at that point came out to form organizations as a result of the problems we saw in our environment, and we wanted to solve those problems. And so most of us saw the political government as an enemy to us. So if you, most environmental advocates, because you are advocating against policies that are not helping, you're advocating for new policies. So at a point, you begin to see that these political leaders, for that matter, government, becomes an enemy or a threat to us, in quotes. And so most organizations do not want to work with government. And they are always the ones organizing the picketing, organizing the demonstrations, and working against government. And I think one thing that has helped us in Ghana, and as a success story for my organization, is the fact that we realize that policy is key, that policy is cause. All other things will work together if the policy is right. So all other things are effect. Policy is the cause. And so at a point when we started, we targeted working with government agencies, going out there, as Gloria was saying, and then the previous speaker was saying, looking out for the policy that's already in existence. And that was where we realized that there were policy gaps we needed to bridge. And so at a point, they realized that the government organizations, like for Ghana, the EPA, the municipal assemblies, the district assemblies, realized that, okay, these guys are in to work with us and not against us. And you're able to create that connection, an organization with the government sector. Then you are bridging the gap between the local people or the grassroots activism and then policy level. And if there's one thing that has helped us is the fact that we are working with government to achieve a set of objectives and not us working against government. Yes, there are times there may be conflict in ideas, but I believe that we should learn as leaders to be able to resolve these ones and always fight for and go for that dialogue that will help us be able to address all our challenges. And to tackle the question, I think it's about time for environmentalists and advocates, especially climate change activists, we come to a point to know that we need to collaborate. We need to come together to work. Collaboration is key. If you look at the 17 SDGs, and even from before the SDGs, no, let me go back a little into time, when we had the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs. From that time, I think that was when we realized that when we were forming the SDGs, we realized we needed partnership. So if you look at SDG 17, it's talking about the fact that there's supposed to be partnership in realizing all the other goals. And so we as environmentalists, we as climate change advocates would have to come together and work together as one. And so unless there's collaboration, but during this, my experience has shown me that in Ghana and for that matter, most of the African countries, our educational system trains us to compete rather than to collaborate, to work towards achieving a set objective. So even in the environmental space, and if you go back to history, from 2012, that was Rio Plus time, to about 2016, 2015, 16, when Paris Protocol was set, during the times where NDCs were being developed by nations, the national determined contributions. That was when most climate change organizations or non-profit that are meant to tackle climate change through both mitigation and adaptation sprang up. And so most of these organizations were set up as a result of addressing some peculiar issues in their community. And some of us are too okay with that, so that we don't even want to widen our net and open our tentacles for other higher opportunities. So I'm in Ghana, I'm in a village called Fodwa, I'm working with community folks in Fodwa, I'm okay because we are trying to solve drought issue that is affecting farming. So we are looking at coming up with adaptation measures. So we are okay with that. And so we don't want to partner, we don't want to look out for any other organization who's doing similar work in other countries or even other jurisdictions or even other regions in our country. And there's that sense of bossy, let me put that word, bossy in some of environmental leaders. That's what I've realized in my course of working. So we feel, okay, so I'm the boss here and whatever, but I think we should come to a level where we can collaborate as young people, even from the ground. We have to organize our base. because we are all fighting that, working towards a common goal, and that is sustainability, that is sustainable development, such that this generation will be able to use their resource without depriving coming generations of the same resources. And that is the reason why we are all in this. And so in this environmental space, or in this climate change ecosystem, one thing that we should all know, that we are working towards a common objective, and we have to all come together. We have to explore the power in synergy. We have to explore the power in working together. Forget about the eyes, and we should work towards the ways. And so we should work by gathering our base. And I can give a roadmap to that, which we are using in Ghana is helping. As most of these organizations sprang up a knee-jerk reaction in code, because we saw a problem, we wanted to solve the problem. So there was a problem we want to solve. So most of the organizations were set up. We didn't actually gather data on these organizations. And so in Ghana, what we are trying to do now is that we are trying to gather data about organizations that are working towards environmental sustainability. So all those in the climate change area, in agriculture, in water and sanitation, the wash, we want to gather data of all these organizations. Because if you want to change policy, if you want to advocate for good policies, we need a common voice, and then we need a united front to do this. And if all these organizations are coming together to be able to come up with this united front, then we can then talk to policy makers and then duty bearers to be able to change policy to suit us as with time. And so in the corridors of time, you see that in 2016 all the way to 2020, most of the organizations that came up that are doing environmental work were young people forming those organizations, because we felt there was a need for change. And there is even still a need for change. But since we were coming from our individual point of views, and everybody was looking at the same vision, but we're looking from different directions, and we were working, we were not able to form that synergy. We were not able to create that collaborative work that will result in us achieving the common or the set vision. And so the time is now, and you have to realize everyone around the globe working in the environmental sector, working on climate change, this is the time that we all should come together to form a collaboration. So we can begin with coalitions setting up, we can form coalitions. Yes, it's good we are working towards climate change and agriculture, somebody climate change and land use change, climate change and water, climate change. Yes, if we could all come together and then form a united, but we have to be able to explore the power in synergy. And so Ghana, we are trying to do it, and then not forgetting that we are not anti-governmental organizations, because for all you know, as Gloria just ended with, that is where policy is. Those are the policy makers, they're the duty bearers. And so we have to work with them. As such, we have to, when we are invited for workshops and dialogues, when we go, let our voices be heard. Let's make a point clear. And let's work with these ones, work towards the already existing policies, try helping them, though we are going to work as people going to demand accountability from them, and also working with them to ensure that whatever policy is there is being implemented. So that gap between CSOs and governmental organizations or agencies should be bridged. And if it's to be bridged, some of us will have to form the bridge to cross the divide between the two organizations. And I think going forward, if we're able to collaborate, if we're able to work together, if you are able to find the power in, or the synergy, the power and synergy of working together, then we can engage even at the international level as a sub-region to achieve to seek what we really want for a part of the world. And so collaboration is key, working together is key. And I believe that the time for us to do that is now.
Oh my goodness.
No more, no.
Like I said, we have the finest minds that I've ever seen here. Otuo, you've said it all and you've summarized, and it's in keeping with what Gloria has said, that the united front is what should be the roadmap for those that are disproportionately affected by climate change. You said a common voice is paramount if at all we are going to get the expectation of a better life for ourselves and for those we share common value with. And that common front must come from a collaborative, a more inclusive kind of agenda setting thing. You also said the content of what we are going to distribute to people that already feel bad, people that feel their lives have never improved, people that feel that things are worse off. The content must also be more humanistic in purpose, and that we should not see government as the enemy, but we should use the instrumentation of our collectiveness to press on government, to work with them to see things that are happening. And I'm so happy that in Ghana, I can totally confirm with you, at least from Medina municipality, I can confirm with you that the Medina Municipality Authority are working with our organization and many other organizations in Ghana to do things. I can confirm that Eco Warrior, the organization you heard or you work with, are doing excellently well in creating content, you know, to domesticate this knowledge on people. And that for me is key. I will want to summarize by saying this and asking Olumide this. Olumide, from all you've heard from our comrade in Ghana and the little victories that they've been winning, though he says that more needs to be done. And we are moving to COP26 now. What do you now think should be our negotiating stakes? What should we go with, you know, as young people to COP26 with? And what should the government come with to COP26 with? When I mean government, African government, what should they come? And what should be the advanced nation and global players? What should they come with to COP26? And then that will be the same question for every other person. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My response will be very simple and short. Let me start from we the people. So I want to, because you know, when we say young people, I'm also referring to civil society as well, because we are part of those network. I think one of the things that we civil society, because of the COVID-19, the pandemic issue, there's a conversation that have been going on that there's going to be a lot of hybrid than physical attendance. Number one, as civil society, we want to make sure that we have maximum representation in that meeting. Negotiating on behalf of us via virtual conversation, sometimes they don't really see the feeling, the spirit from our face. So from the civil society angle and from the younger youth across Africa as well, I think we need a strong representation that will make our leaders to understand that we are no longer a spectator. This is high time for us. We don't want to discuss about any other thing rather than implementation of what they call the NDC. How do we translate our NDC and making the civil society an implementing partner to make our NDC work for people or work for the people on the grassroots? Then what we need from the government should try as much as possible to go along with some set of young people that will be a face. I'm talking of government delegation. If they can add young people into their delegation, then we'll be able to have more voices in feeding back to the people back home. For instance, when our governments are negotiating in different climate finance, adaptation section, mitigation, you know, people talking about the indigenous people, who are the people that shadow our negotiators? These are the roles that young people can play along with the government. While you are making commitment, young people are there listening to the commitment and capturing what you are saying and feeding back to the community or to the nation to understand that younger generation is also part of negotiating or negotiation. Also, let me talk about and end with this. For the international country, we need as much as possible sincerity in their commitment. And the commitment that we always see is about the climate finance. You know, when we are talking about financing for environmental issues, a lot of people focus on the international body to invest in Africa and Africa. We need investment that will make Africa to be free from environmental problems, not investment that will continue to compile a lot of debt. And if we can do this, I think those commitments, as they said in their NDC and in their commitment that they've submitted to UNFCCC, then we're able to see that there's going to be equal balance between the international organization, between the country internationally, and all other body. So my view is just that at this COP, we are not going to be repeating the same thing from COP25 in Madrid. We want to see practical conversation that we support people locally, and the local action will now be bottom approach, not top approach. Thank you very much.
Yes, Olumide, thank you so much for conceptualizing that. But just to re-echo what Olumide has said, no more spectatorship. People want to be players and not the bystander. It's important that government harness a way to select young people to be the new face. By face and by youth, he means those that have that vitality and want to drive progress. They will be the new face to move and inspire others to do better. And when we get to COPE, that what he expects from other players is that they must insist on practical, tangible things that can be shown, and this is very important.
One thing that we should be looking out for, I was happy when Gloria said that we should follow the signs and then the policies, because that's how we'll be able to influence the influencers. And I think that's something that young people haven't been paying attention to for quite some time now. And that's what we seek to do as a policy team at SYN. So we try to understand the policies and then know how we can engage the policymakers to ensure that even before the policies come out for us to implement, we know exactly the role that young people are going to play. So going to COP, one thing that I believe we should be pushing for is the idea of youth negotiators. The negotiation rooms are where the issues happen. That's where the texts are written, and then it comes down for us to do the implementation. During one of our pre-COP meeting training, I heard Sudan, the government actually goes with young people for them to learn about the negotiations. Then as time goes on, you'll be able to carry on from the elders that do the negotiation. And Ghana, I heard, is something that we experimented, and out of that, they have as the G77 plus China and all the people that do the big bidding at the COP. So I believe that we should push that all African countries should ensure that there are young people that will go with the delegates as negotiators, not just for now, they can go and study to understand their policies, to know how it's about, so that when they come back to their country and then they are advocating, they know what exactly they are advocating for, because it's about time we move a step further from just campaigning on social media to ensure that we involve ourselves in the rule of the game, which is the policies on the ground. So speaking about the pre-COP meeting, I was happy once again when I heard the initial conversations around collaboration, because I've been working with Daniel. He's been a great guy. We've been working with government institutions because we want to understand the signs from our perspective. So we'll be paying working visits to the Environmental Protection Agency in Ghana, because now there's a general thing. So when it comes to Ghana, people know that, for example, our weather patterns have changed. People say it, but they are not able to pinpoint into the fact that that's climate change. And then we see that, like the moderator said, when you hear stories about Africa that are written in books, sometimes they differ from what really is going on.
Governments, as for example, Gloria has been, speaking very, very toughly, against government. Most government officials, they feel like, we are being anti-development. In fact, here in Uganda, somebody asked me and said, but Robert, Africa only contributes 2% of the emissions. Why are you saying that it is our responsibility to control climate change? And my view was that, you see, Africa and Uganda in particular, we don't have the resilience, if we don't have the capacity to withstand, the climate catastrophes once they hit us. And for me, I think we need to look at climate change in the way of that it's an opportunity to provide, for example, jobs, issues to do with the, green innovation, green jobs, so that it becomes more attractive to especially government. Because I don't subscribe to the idea that we should confront government. We should say government must do this, do that. I feel like we need to build partnerships. We need to work with government to ensure that these issues are mainstreamed. So I think that as we go to COP, one of the issues that we need to focus on is, are there opportunities to, for example, finance green innovations here in Africa, where young people are coming up with all these opportunities, coming up with these ideas, on how we can, mitigate climate change, issues of climate adaptation. You talked about, Daniel talked about the issue of which we are pushing here in Uganda, issues of nature-based solutions, where we believe that people, ordinary people, must be on the front line. Local communities must be on the front line of fighting climate change. Because as we already said about issues of gender and climate change, it is the women, it is the girls, it is the people with disabilities, young people who are facing the challenges of climate change. And therefore, women must be empowered, and they must be down there in the local communities. They must be provided with the necessary tools, because if you talk about issues of how climate change is affecting agriculture, long droughts, all these disasters, it is the women who are facing that. So I think I agree with you that we must empower women to ensure that they are the front line of fighting climate change through nature-based solutions. And then lastly is the issue of our communication, how we communicate climate change. I think because as John Bosco was saying before, when the idea of climate change first came up, it came more or less like a foreign kind of idea. And most people, although they know that the seasons have changed, they don't realize this is climate change. So I think for us as the environment shield, what we have done, and I would want us to adopt it, is that we have to change the way we are communicating climate change, especially talking about issues that are affecting people directly. For example, if you talk about issues of food insecurity, hunger, people will associate themselves with such a kind of thing that, there is a lot of food insecurity, there's a lot of hunger because of climate change, due to the droughts and all these floods. When you talk about issues of clean water, the water that they drink, safe water, they will understand, because everybody drinks water, they know water is life. So when they see their wells are drying up, the boreholes are drying up, all these issues, water is being polluted, they will understand what we're talking about. Issues of clean air. For example, you have seen the IPCC talking about the code red for humanity. I as the environment shield, we tried to break it down from the 62 pages to only one page for Ugandans to understand it. But even still, the language, they don't understand the language. So what we are trying to do is to see that we tell them that, what? Like now here in Uganda, when COVID-19 hit, oxygen became the most expensive item. And we said, you know what, you guys, now for us to, so we said the trees are giving out this oxygen. So someone would compare a tree with a gas cylinder of oxygen in the hospital. And in light of that, they would try to connect with that. So I think going forward, we need to a little bit change the language to be able to speak the language that people can easily associate with, because people, once they see the problem is far from them, they don't act. But when the city is already with them, then they will be able to, react accordingly. Of course, the issue of involving young people has been emphasized. The truth of the matter is that it is young people who are facing issues of climate change, because it is their future that is at stake. Already we talk about them so much, but it's young people. So I think young people must form the negotiation table, must be at the table that is negotiating for this issue, not being peripheral, but they must be at the front line of these negotiations as COP26 will be going on. Otherwise, thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah.
It's been a great engagement.
So
thank
much.
you.
Before you go, I want Jill to say something. Jill, you've heard all what Robert has said about collaboration and partnership. You've heard the new mantra now, influence the influencer, from Gloria. In your own view, what is your take home from all this narrative? Go ahead, Jill.
Well, I excuse me. I appreciate what John Robert was saying about making the information digestible for people, making the science understandable by the general population. We're all on this call, we all understand it, but in general, people do not. So, how do we take, a 4,000 page document and make it one page? I think it points to that. So I think that needs to be on the forefront of everyone's mind. And, once we get that happening, then we can get civil society where we live at the local level to influence the influencers, right? So we need more and more and more people. The good news is that in terms of social movement building, you only need 3.5% of a population actively involved for a social movement to be successful. So we have to keep that in mind, that it's not like, I mean, ideally it would be great if everybody could read that one piece of paper and understand it all. That would be great, but we don't necessarily need everyone for the change to happen. We only need 3.5% of a population actively involved.
Yeah.
So that's a key thing to remember as we move forward.
Thank you. One, what did you get from all of the percentage of people that are required, you know, and then what is your own take home from what you've heard?
Well, I just came across something as I was scrolling on my page. It says, if planet Earth was a bank, our leaders and those with power would have saved it by now.
That's true.
So I think we have to find some way to quantify saving the planet such that the people in power will value it enough to save it.
Okay. Hello, Gloria.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
I'm
world,
listening.
the world has come to a realization that the youth is supposed to be the leading force in this global fight for change. Being a key player in this global fight, how do you describe a youth, who a youth should be, and what do you think should be done to educate and empower them properly without missing the point?
Nice question.
Thank you very much for that question. You asked, how do we get the youth to build their capacity to be able to engage in climate, if I get you right?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is where mentorship is very important for young people. There's a need for a lot of hand-holding. There's a need for them to be connected with influencers. There's a need for them to get connected with influencers. There's a need for them to get connected with people that are pace setters. There's a need for them to get connected with people that have wealth of experience, wealth of expertise. I mean, there's no point keeping this expertise to you. And that's why, like, forum like this, where we're having this engagement, where anybody can join using the social media. I mean, it's actually an avenue where we can get young people to build their capacity. And it's, in as much as possible, I don't know the number of people I mentor, young people I mentor, but of course the calls keep coming in and you have to support them. You have to encourage them in their program. So if we have this mentorship thing put in place, that you do a little bit, some hand holding, and those people that you're giving that hand holding would in turn also do the same for others. You understand? So it's a chain, it's a circle that goes round and round, and that will be able to expand the entire chain, and then we'll get to build the capacities of young people, and that way young people can engage effectively. And when there's an opening, when there's an opportunity, you need to carry other people along. Like, there are times that you can't be everywhere. Like, most times I tell my volunteers in the office, aren't you tired of hearing my name everywhere? I mean, why can't your name be heard? Now, I keep telling them, if it comes to media, I have made a name already. You understand?
That's true. Yeah.
If you Google, you find my name everywhere. But then, why is it always me? Why can't I have other people come on board? That way our voices will be amplified. Now, if I'm able to bring more young people on board, I actually will not remain where I am. I'm actually going to the top too.
That's true.
So it's a win-win thing. It's really very important that we do a lot of mentorship, a lot of hand-holding for young people. We need to raise great leaders. We need to raise great climate activists. We need to raise great advocates. We need to raise great rebels. If you work for us in Africa, we'll have them, and as much as possible. So if we can engage in that, we'll be able to build capacities. And I bet it with you, the sky will definitely be a stepping stone for young people, and the desired change we need, we'll be able to get them. It's not always rosy, but with constant push and constant support, we will get there. So I can assure you that as many people as we can bring to the space, we can get it right.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gloria, for that detailed insight. And I know the world is listening. The world, I mean, I'm not talking about the politicians, I'm talking about everyone, because everyone is a stakeholder. Even the child that is just given birth to is also a stakeholder because with proper education,
That's
the
true.
child will know the right things to do, how to go green early, because if they catch them young, the tomorrow will be easier for them. And the tomorrow we speak of is ours, is theirs. Thank you so much. And Dr. Daniel?
Yeah, John Bosco, please, before you go, I also have one question for Gloria, because Gloria is making a lot of sense.
Yes.
Gloria raised something very important, that is never always been said. She made mention of it in the context of mentorship, but she explained by saying it's time we start holding people's hands as we begin to clamor for a better, sustainable, greener world. The question I now have for Gloria, why is there a struggle to accept that there's need for Africans to know better? What do we stand to lose if we make life better for people in the context of climate change? Why do you think there's a hesitance, so to say, or why do you think the political will is there, but they're not using it to quickly achieve the goal of ensuring a better life for all? Is there something you've seen along your journey that is saying, so this is one of the reasons, this is one of the reasons? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel, for that. I think basically it all has to do with greed. It all has to do with selfishness. It all has to do with, will I say, some level of corruption too. And notwithstanding too, we also have to look at it from another angle. Do those people even have the capacity? Do they even know what it entails? Do they even understand what is currently happening? I mean, those are things that there are questions that we need to ask and we need to understand. So why would they make Africa better? If Africa is the least that contributes to the to climate change, to global warming, but yet we are receiving them because we're vulnerable, why won't every attention come down to Africa? But it's either they feel that greed or that selfishness, or they really do not understand the importance. And mind you, not everybody in the climate space actually believe that it's really
true.
happening. Some people are there because they have to do it, or probably because I work let me say I work with an organization that works around climate change, and I'm just trying to see how I can make ends meet, a source of livelihood. So that's why I move along with it. So, I mean, I've met people, we've interacted with them, and we found out that there's also that capacity gap. So there's a need, that's why I said earlier, the need to build capacity is a two-way thing. For the citizens,
and for the drivers,
and even for the government, for our policymakers, for the drivers, for the influencers too. So there's a need for us to build all that and see how we can take advantage of it. So, and it's very important also from Africa, our voices need to be heard. We need to loud our voices. That's why it's very important we bring in as many people as possible. Somebody from probably India or China or America or Australia come to speak for us as Africans. So we need to speak from here. We need to go down to research. We need to we need to come up with real life scenarios of what is happening, the impacts as we're having it. We need to bring out such publications. We need people to understand what is happening. You understand? So we alone can do it. You can imagine when you're called to speak from Africa about a problem or an issue facing. It's just like I am called to speak about probably the insecurity in northern Nigeria, or I go to the rural community and I get someone that's been impacted by insecurity. I mean, you can imagine how emotions will grow. You can imagine how people, because this is genuine, is coming from that person that has experienced it. So we are the ones experiencing it. We need to amplify our voices, and that's why we need to go back again and pull up those indigenous people that are at the receiving end of most of this climate change. We need to go back. We need to come up with real facts. Are we going back to hospitals to look at the impact of this climate change on health? Are we going to the agricultural sector to look at the impact on climate change on you understand? Are we going to different sectors? So we need to have robust research. We need to be, it needs to be evidence-driven, fact-driven. And that way, we will be able to speak authoritatively. We'll be able to speak with all facts, and we'll be able to amplify our voices. I think that way we can put some attention to Africa.
Yeah, there was a question on the Facebook. I just saw the question on the Facebook for Gloria. She says, Anele Ebuka, please help me and thank Gloria for the constructive way she puts this term. I totally agree with her when she says that the knowledge gap is on both ends. From what Gloria is saying, God isn't responsible for everything. God has given us the wisdom for us to know where our faults are. Please help me and thank her. The Honorable Minister for Youth, Assistant Minister for Youth, Emmanuel Maba Johnson, is a friend of mine. I send special greetings on behalf of the government. I was not able to make it up because of some government function. I'm following up and I'm seeing the comments. Congratulations to all youths. And Gloria is just spot on. Influencing the influencer should be the new talking point. Why I'm taking my time to tell you is this: your message is resonating because the way you are communicating, you are breaking it down to language and simple things people can understand. You want to go and talk about security to someone. Be prepared to know that it will be emotional, especially when you're talking to someone on ground. You can't be coming from the high government stuff and say we are providing security. That's not how to talk. You have to feel as if you are the one that has been affected, and then you have to change your tone. So the next question that I want to ask, in keeping with this, is: do you think it is timely now that we start focusing our message targeted on certain group of people? I will explain what I mean. Let's focus on women and say, is there a way we can frame our climate change messaging to women in finance, women in agriculture, women in education, women in technology? Do you think it is right if you say, yes, targeting messages to specific group of people is right? Are you willing to now champion that stuff, especially for women? Thank you.
Well, if you're asking me if the time is ripe, I think the time is overripe. We're far behind schedule. I think these are things that we will have done years back, but unfortunately, we're just doing it now. I can say myself, I came into this space quite late. Maybe if I had come probably maybe 20 years before I did.
Wow,
I'm not
you'll
up
have
to
been
20 years.
ingenious by now. Yeah.
Right now, exactly. So it's very important that this message is driven specifically to a particular group or to a particular cause or particular sector. Now, this is if you bring out a general message, people wouldn't understand it. Like I always talk about this. One time I was invited to speak on International Drugs Day, and I looked at it and I asked myself, do I go and I speak about drug abuse just like that? But then where am I coming from? And I'm a core environmentalist. So I sat down, I asked someone who I think was more knowledgeable than me in the environmental space. And I asked him, he couldn't give me a proper, he couldn't guide me on that. So I sat down myself and I began to think, because usually before I speak, I must create a linkage with the topic given to me. You understand? I look at it and I begin to dissect it before I speak anywhere, even when I have to develop slides. And I looked at it. You're talking about drug abuse. So what do I do now? And then I began to put the pieces together. And I was able to link drug abuse to the environment. Now, looking at even the what do they call it? The syringes that those drug abuse, depending on the drugs you're taking, inject themselves in English. Are we going to use Igbo? Are we using Igbo? Are we using Hausa? Are we using Yoruba? Some of those major languages. If you go down to Kogi, are you using Igala, Benue, Idoma, and all those languages? So everybody needs to understand this climate change message. It's not all about speaking some big grammars about them. Like, who understands that and who cares about that? You just need to simplify it and link up with real life scenario. Then people will understand, oh, it's actually happened. The weather is changing. The heat was not like this 2 years ago, but it's now becoming excessive, things like that. So messages have to be driven. Women have to understand how they are being impacted by climate change. Children need to understand how they're being impacted by climate change. The agricultural sector needs to understand how they're being impacted by climate change, and every other sector. The persons living with disability need to understand how they're being impacted by climate change. So the message needs to be specific and be directed to a particular group. That way we can get the message loud and clear, and then not leaving the media behind. They are a very strong hold and a very strong pillar at any time to help amplify our voices. Yes, the world have gone back to traditional media and new media, but then the traditional media too is also on the new media, because most times when they write stories, prints, you find them on the links. Even TV, you can actually find their links online Facebook pages, and even the YouTube. So it's a two-way thing that we need both the new media and the traditional media to be able to amplify our voices. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On that note, I want to thank you, Gloria. You have added content. I can't believe I have learned a lot, especially about using catchphrases, influencing the influencer. I've learned a lot from all you've said. I also have learned about the reversal gap in knowledge, both on the government side and both on the people's side. These are communicative concepts that are very simple and very easy to understand. I am not surprised because when I met you through Ugoapati, I knew that there was something. And it's almost about the same time you came in to the climate struggle, I came into the climate struggle. Well, I was seeing climate from the health perspective, but you have a good grasp and you know how to, fuse talking points into it. And that's what makes the difference. And I guess that's why, you are among the best of us, as we hand over to John Bosco and Daniel to round up. Mr. Ebenezer Mansa, do you have anything to say?
Yes, thanks. Sorry, I can't put on my video because I'm in town.
No problem, no problem.
And then today is my first time joining this discussion. Actually, I was invited by Daniel, and I am much impressed with it. Just that the knowledge we have gotten now, we shouldn't keep it to ourselves. We should send it to the people out there.
That's
because climate change is really having an impact on our environment, and we are the future leaders. So it is time for us to educate others so that we put our environment in good state. So I won't say much, but I will try to always get in touch and then make my effort to when the time comes. Thanks so much, and then everyone should have a good evening.
Thank you so much. And thank you on that note for rounding up, in a very innocent, simple term, that there's need for us to continue in this spectrum. I hand over to John Bosco and Daniel to round up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, viewers, and God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for being a part of this long program. Daniel, I want to thank you for all you are doing in the background to push this narrative, because it seems like you're bringing Africa into it, whereas in the real sense, Africa suffers the most of the problems of this climate change. So Daniel, just a quick reminder, you are representing Ghana, you are representing Africa, but you are representing the common man, the youth himself. So do well to speak our mind in the COP, and as usual, we know you make us proud. Over to you, Daniel, for the last words.
All right. So first of all, let me thank our speakers for doing justice to the topic. I mean, yes, we need synergy. We need to collaborate. More importantly, we need to know how to transmit the message. And I believe at the end of the day, that is what we are taking away. Simplifying the climate message to the ordinary person, because it's not the science alone that matters. It is about empathy. I believe we need to put ourselves in the shoes of people and then connect with them at the same level where they are, and then make the message as simple as it can so that they can appreciate it and also live a sustainable lifestyle. Every time you go online, you see a lot of people doing events that are leading to Cop26. And this event, I must say, has brought together all the key youth heads. When I say youth heads, I mean youth brains that when it comes to climate change, you can mention Mr. Climate, Miss Gloria Kasang Bulus, Otuo Champon, Dr. Buje Daniel, John Bosco, yourself, Jill, who is in the US, who are to join us in discussing the whole issue from the African context. I mean, this has been an interactive session. This has been, worth spending our time to listen to our speakers, and then there is more work to be done, but this time we'll do it with a sense of new direction. that is simplifying the message, influencing them. So thank you all for making time to join us today. We'll put our video for everyone to also learn and then have experience today. So thank you all and God bless us all. Green regards. Bye.
Bye.